All right, howdy.
Howdy.
That was pretty pathetic. Howdy.
Howdy.
Okay, so a funny story. I'm not from Texas, I'm from Florida. So I went to the University of Florida, and howdy was completely foreign to me. So when people taught me this here, I was like, great, this is the most awesome thing. I also realized that you never tell Aggies that you are from the University of Florida because I got hissed at and booed, by an undergrad. I thought it was kind of funny, but I think I've acclimated pretty well. I'll introduce myself and then I'll ask Shweta to introduce herself, but I'm Dr. Nate Poling with the Center for Teaching Excellence. I'm an instructional consultant over there. I specialize in instructional technology, student motivation and engagement, things like that. I work primarily with faculty, but I do a lot of things with AFF and things like that. So kind of in the middle right there. So.
All right, and I'm Shweta Khelani. I'm with the College of Liberal Arts. I'm the senior instructional designer in the college, and I primarily work with faculty and graduate students in adding technology to their classrooms, online classes, and to make their content more engaging. And if technology can help with that, that's what I'm there for. I also work with CTE and Instructional Technology Services, ITS, on campus to provide lots of different workshops throughout the year. So is anybody here from Liberal Arts? Oh, lots of people, perfect. So I guess you probably get a lot of emails from me all the time. We just do a lot of workshops, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me directly as well. All right.
A question. How many of you are aiming for a faculty tenure track position? Okay. How many of you are planning on industry? Okay. So it looks like a pretty good balance here. Regardless of where you end up, how many of you have ever been bored to death in a lecture or a class? I'll put 2 hands up here. What we're going to show you today is our ways, tech tools, mobile devices to help you maybe spice up your lecture or whatnot. Those train track training things are kind of boring. So, that's more on the industry side. So definitely we want to give you some more interactive ways to kind of engage your students or your employees or whatnot. I guess I'll go ahead and get started. How many of you have used clickers before? Okay, clickers have their uses. They also have some drawbacks. Can anybody think of some of the drawbacks of clickers?
Well, they're restrictive in a lot of ways. You can only, how many response buttons can we get on a clicker now?
I think there's 5, yeah.
Right, and so it's restrictive in that it limits the students to only those choices, and it can kind of thwart creativity. Right. A little bit.
There's also the cost issue, right? Okay. So I'm going to show you a different, an alternative to clickers that allow you to, have students do text, so they can actually text in answers, so long answers, short answers. So if you would, please go ahead and go to Socrative.com. Go to the menu on the top right corner. Go ahead and take out your devices if you have one. Yeah, Socrative or Socrative. Go to the menu on the top right corner and go to Student Login and type in Dr. Nate. I don't think it matters whether it's caps or not. I need to log in to the administrative side, so hang on.
So go to a web browser and type in Socrative.com, and on the right-hand corner there is a little the 3 lines which indicates a menu. Click on that or tab on that, and you will see Student Login. And when you see Student Login, type in Dr. Nate with no spaces and no dots.
DRNATE?
That is correct.
And it might not work. I have to refresh it, so if it's not letting you do it, then yeah, Dr. Nate. It should be live right now. Dr. Nate, no spaces.
Does everybody get to the So Socrative.com, top right corner, student login, and Dr. Nate.
Anybody having issues?
I have two minutes.
And it asks you to type in a name, and you can just type in a nickname. You don't have to type your real name.
No space at the end. Okay, good. Yeah. Everyone good?
Should we answer the question?
Yes, answer the questions, please. It's a quiz. You'll get graded on this. This goes back to your advisor, by the way. It does not. Your battery, and that is one of the drawbacks to this. But you're familiar with clickers.
I am.
So. I usually bring my work computer, so you could have used it, but I didn't bring it today.
Well, I'd be happy to WhatsApp, but I locked my keys in my vehicle with the vehicle and so I have to have enough to call afterwards.
So now it's
Oh, I'm
the
sorry about
quiz
that.
Nate has put together. Okay, and you can answer that. So it's a multiple choice question that you can put an answer, choose an answer for. And then hit submit.
Awesome. Oops, wrong.
Looks like, judging from what I'm seeing up here, what question in my lecture or test should I go back and revisit to help the student understanding? Student one, right? So this is, you might be familiar with what we call formative assessment. So formative assessment is, checking for understanding as we go along. Summative assessment would be an exam or a, homework assignment. So ideally, formative assessment would help you identify where they're having issues so that they don't make the same mistake on a test or a quiz. Does that make sense? So one of the uses of mobile devices in the classroom is that important formative assessment. And, I had you put your name in. You didn't have to put your real name in. It could have been anonymous. And again, that's a safe space for people to fail if they need it, if they have to fail. So let's go through some of this. What was the correct answer for number one? Is it 1876 or 1871? All right, that's your second task. Go ahead and research that for me, please. When was A&M officially founded, established? If I'm wrong, you as students have to back up, what you're saying. I mean, I'm very
established 1876. I don't know when they start building it. I'm not sure, but on the logo on the wiki page everywhere it says 1876.
Okay, so am I wrong?
Seems so.
Okay, so
Well,
I
it
am.
seems that the Texas State Legislature, I don't know,
It was founded as a university.
construction began in 1876.
So founded as a university in 1871?
Yeah, but it wasn't done till 1876.
But the instruction did not begin till 1876.
All right, so we can go into bad test question. So I guess we're both right. I'd have to give you partial credit, right? Is that how it works here? But anyways, I wanted to demonstrate that. It looks like everybody got C, right? What is number two? The answer? Okay. Ooh, I like this. Some people like Shiraz. Is that a kebab? Middle? Is it good? So I was over in Qatar, the College Station Qatar campus, and we had some good kebabs over there. So I was just wondering how it weighed out. Grub burger. I love burgers. Is that good? What about Taz? Is that good?
Yes.
When I was working on my PhD, I went to school with a lot of Indian students, and I had 2 Indian roommates, and they cooked really good Indian food. So I'm kind of picky when it comes to that. So I guess I should try that out. And number 4, how come I have 3 falses here?
The picture didn't show up.
Picture didn't show up?
Mine didn't.
Well, that is me on a camel, and that is me in Qatar in the desert. So I paid $10 to go for 5 minutes on a camel. It's kind of a rip-off, but that is me. But I just wanted to demonstrate something other than clickers, because notice that the short answer question, I could have phrases, I could have sentences, I could have a short paragraph if I wanted to, whereas clickers, you're limited to those 5. This is free for you to use up to, I think, 30 or 40 students. After that, you would have to pay. One way around that, if you want to keep it free, is to group students up. So pair them up, and then together they come up with a solution, or put them in groups of 3, so all of a sudden your large class of 120 can be served by a free count. And it has the added benefit of cutting down bandwidth, because if you have 120 students trying to access the internet, your bandwidth is going to go down real fast. So grouping students up serves purposes, cuts down bandwidth. It also helps if students don't have a device or their device doesn't have batteries. They're still engaged in a group activity. So it doesn't have to be one person, one device. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. You can make it a collaborative learning activity. Any questions?
What if you want to grade them? Or
This is not for grading. This is formative assessment.
If
Okay.
you want to grade them, we would recommend something called READ, which is clickers, basically still clickers, but it's available on the mobile phones. The problem with that is that students have to pay for it, or you have to pay it for your class, which is, again, difficult. So we would recommend using this only for, just formative assessment, just to clear out some misconceptions, to test students of what they're not understanding, what needs a repetition, so on and so forth, but not for grading per se.
And the other benefit to this is you don't feel so bad now that you got number 1 wrong, right? Because you know that everybody else is kind of struggling with that thing too. So it kind of helps students realize that they're not alone with it. Whereas if I didn't put this up there, you could feel like you're the only one struggling. So this is for student engagement, student motivation. It's not for compliant, which I think REEF is, but this is not. So this is just for engagement and for kind of checking their knowledge and how they understand things as they're going along.
Another alternative to this is Poll Everywhere. Has anybody used Poll Everywhere in the class? So it's the same thing pretty much. You can have poll questions, you can have a quiz question, you can also have short answer. They can type in a word and it can make a word cloud depending on how many, the frequency of that answer. The higher the frequency of that answer, the bigger that word gets, and the lower the frequency, the smaller the word is. So you can use Poll Everywhere as well as an alternative to Socrative. And it also has a limitation of 45 to 50 students. So again, if you want to keep it free, good idea to group people up or pair them so that the students don't pay for it. Yes.
Now the Socrative, you said it's limited to how many students?
30 or 40?
30 or 40 students.
30 or 40. Is that to be logged on at one time?
No,
Is that-
for it to be free.
Okay, but what I'm wondering is, okay, so I teach, say, 2 sections of English 210 that's got 25 students. In each section, does it work by total number of logins, or can I use it in my morning section and then use it again?
As long as at
Yeah.
the same time there are no more than 30 students.
At the same
we're good.
time, okay, great, so you can use it,
At two
morning
different
section,
types of the
afternoon
day.
section.
That is
Okay,
correct.
Great.
So the other thing is we're trying to give you tools that are free to use for both you as an instructor as well as for your students. Because when you factor in money, then that becomes a handicap and you don't want that. So we're trying to give you free up to a point. I want to show you another tool that the Dean of Faculty, John August, who used to be our director at the center, really likes. And that's called todaysmeet.com. So if you could go to www.todaysmeet.com/Dr. Nate.
MEET?
Yeah, MEET, yes. And it should just give you a spot where you got your name, put that in, and then everyone just say hi. It's pretty easy to use. I think you'll. So just go to that link. You can provide that to students. Dr. Nate, DRNATE, no space. I don't know if capitalization.
Didn't have, okay, so that.
Yeah, got some people up there. Somebody says yo, somebody says howdy, hello world. Oh, okay. You might be trying to create a room. I need you to join the room, not create a room.
Okay,
Yeah.
Where do you join?
You should just be able to go to this website, Dr. Nate, or www.todaysmeet.com/Dr. Nate.
Oh.
You're not joining. I guess the joining is already in the URL.
So yes, you would have to type in /Dr. Nate after today's meet. Only then you can go directly to the room.
Can you go to the website?
It's up there at the top. You just go to that website.
Okay, let's see.
So it's todaysmeet.com/Dr. Nate.
So it's right there.
No problem.
So this one's even simpler to use than Socrative because you're just going to a link. This is what we call a back channel app. Can anybody think of how we could use this in the classroom?
Could build up a list of questions that they could put in throughout the class period, and at the end you can kind of scroll through and answer the ones that look like are good, that there's lots of the same thing.
And if you're teaching the longer sections, you give them a break in the middle. You can go through these and then address the questions before you start your lecture. That's how a lot of faculty use it. Another use is that students can answer each other's questions. That's a big thing. So this is another formative assessment kind of tool. If you're in a large class, or if you're in a class at all, and you have a big question, do you think a shy person would be willing to raise their hand and ask that question?
No.
No.
So they're at a disadvantage in that situation, right? Because they're not going to get their answer for the question. So if you put it this way, they can ask a question, and their question, could be answered either by their peers or by the professor. The other good thing about this is that it takes some of the pressure off you because other students can answer questions from other students, and sometimes students, peers, can answer questions better than the professor or the instructor can. Because I remember times when the professor was up here, assuming that I was up there with them, but I was really down here, and it just didn't work out. So a peer would be able to, kind of guide me through that process. Okay, questions?
The one thing that you would want to make sure is that you give your students something called netiquette so that they know what is appropriate and what is not. And then also monitor that there's nothing inappropriate going on this wall, with the chats or, there's not anybody offending anybody else in the class and so on and so forth. So make sure you have that discipline created within your class and your students.
A lot of the stuff we're showing you is collaborative in nature from devices or whether it be phones or apps or whatever. So to back up what Shweta said, definitely before you implement any of these technologies, you have to have a framework in place. You can't just dump this on students. And to be honest with you, I would not start this on the first day of class. I would build it up in maybe the third or fourth class. And also take into account the maturity of your students. Some of you are teaching first year, second years. They're going to be much different sometimes in some situations than your graduate students or your third or fourth years. So use it with some caution, but I think the benefits far outweigh what's the opposite of benefit? Non-benefit, no?
Disadvantage.
Disadvantage. So weigh it. If it works in your context, definitely try it. This is another tool we wanted to show you. Any questions about this one? Helpful or not?
Very.
Yeah. What about the Socrative? Helpful or not?
Very.
I could do a clicker question and ask you about how helpful these were, right? All right. So that's Socrative. This is also what was it? Socrative and Today's Meet. So Shweta's going to show you a couple of other tools, and she's actually going to have you join an online class that she has. Okay.
All right. We'll have a little short presentation before I show you another tool. But let's see, how many of you know what the most dreaded symbol of this age is? Or the symbols of this age, most dreaded symbols of this age? What you see and you were like, oh my gosh, my life is now a standstill. I don't know what to do next.
No Wi-Fi phone.
Yes, no Wi-Fi sound. Yeah, that's like that's
Low battery.
low battery. You got it. Yay. That's exactly what I had. Low battery and no Wi-Fi or no network. Oh, okay. So yes, the idea is that mobile devices are such a big part of our life right now. You order food from here, you go home, you know, if you're traveling, that's what gets you to your destination. You pay your bills through this. I mean, everything basically is on your phone. If I'm traveling, I don't even know which flight I'm on, so I can't even reach the right counter, you know, if it's American or Delta or whatever, because I don't know. It's in my email, and I will just see it before, you know, 5 minutes before when I get to the airport. So it's really a big part of our lives, and similarly a big part of your students' lives, you know, and probably even more. They're all the time on these devices. So the idea is that this is how our workplaces look like, you know, like Google or Microsoft, or even if not high-tech companies like those. But what do you see over here? What's the one thing that strikes you in this picture of how our workplaces look like? Open, that's right. Very collaborative, right? People are working together, and it's not working in silos, not working in an assembly line. So, and everybody has their own devices, maybe multiple devices, and they're all working together. Versus, this is how our classrooms look like, right? You have the person standing here, and you have like 300 students in a classroom, and all that the teacher is doing is lecturing. It's the sage on the stage kind of an approach. It's not collaborative anymore.
Can I add something real quick? So with the polling software, you can engage students on a level you haven't been able to engage in before, right? Up here, you don't know how many of those students know the content, or how many are struggling. You don't know anything about your students and their comprehension, except for maybe the 1 or 2 people in the front row that like to raise their hand, right? So think of some of the tools that we're showing you as almost like diagnostic tools to measure the health and the understanding of your students, because you don't want your students to fail, your students don't want to fail, but all too often we don't do this formative assessment, and they only find out that they don't know it, and we don't find out until they know it, until they fail the exam, right? So
it's a two-way feedback. So they understand how much they know about, you know, in the subject, but you also understand how much your students are, you know, grabbing when you're lecturing, or the information that you're giving them. And if something needs to be revisited or reiterated with another example, or maybe with a worked example, and so on. So it's a two-way channel. So looking at this picture, how different is it from, you know, 1,000 years back? Not much, right? Of course, other than you have a screen that has a PowerPoint display, but I mean, the arrangement is pretty much the same. So we have to get away from that so that we can help our students be prepared for the work environment that they're going to be working in 4 years from now. So the whole idea is that the learning landscape is changing. We're making it more open, as one of you just mentioned. So we shouldn't restrict our information to be, you know, from a certain day and time of the week or a certain time of the day. It should be open. It should be all the time, just in time, whenever they need it. So it shouldn't be confined to the time of the day and a place. So make it more open. These are some images that show collaborative learning, which we call active learning, where everybody in the classroom kind of works together, and the professor is no longer, there's no front of the class. Everybody is working together, and it's more of a coaching kind of an approach versus just teaching and just delivering a lecture, because if that was it, the students could go back and read and it would be no different. But it's the, you know, the collaborative problem-solving approach which makes learning more, which students retain more than anything else. So how many of you listen to a video or a podcast on your way home, or maybe while you're working out in the gym? Lots, you know. How many of you have experienced where you're sitting in a coffee shop with a friend, with a colleague, and you start discussing something, and there's a question that comes up, and you just take out your phone and you Google it, and immediately you have an answer, and that information stays with you forever because you got it when you needed it the most, versus when you were in class in the morning at 8 o'clock, half asleep, and the teacher was trying to convey some information to you standing on a, like a Roman theater, right? So the idea was because you searched for that information just when you needed it, so it was just in time, it was just what you wanted, and it was ubiquitous. It didn't feel like a classroom, it didn't feel like you were learning. It was just a part of you. It was most accessible because it was right there on your phone. So all of this is what is the learning, trend these days. It should be just in time, ubiquitous, social, and social because you were with a bunch of friends and you wanted to act, wanted to be the smart one in the group. And then of course accessible. And mobile devices can help you with that. There's one thing that you would say, some of you probably feel that way, that I wouldn't allow my students to bring mobile devices to class because they will be distracted. They will be, on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Well, yes, that is true, but if you engage them with the same technology, now suddenly you've capitalized on the technology that they would have used for something else, but now to your advantage. So like, for example, when we were working on the Socrative quiz that Nate had created about Texas A&M, we asked you to answer a question, and then he asked you to pull out their phones, Google when Texas A&M was founded. So suddenly, instead of being on Facebook, you guys decided to Google it and prove Nate wrong. That's.
Well, the other thing though is, remember that big classroom? We don't know how many percentage of those students were actually engaged, right? But I can guarantee you that if you have more active learning and use more handheld devices, that percentage is probably going to go up. Are you going to have people that are going to completely and always goof off? Yeah. There's no way around that, right? So I guess what Shweta and I are trying to say is, do as much as you can to engage. If you can increase your engagement rate from 60% of students to about 75 or 80, that's a pretty big deal right there. There's always going to be that section that you can never reach, but your attention shouldn't be on them. Your attention should be getting the more borderline people, I think, in a lot of ways.
All right, so how many of you use Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something of that nature? A few of you? Okay. So I'm sure the undergrads, pretty much everybody has something on them, either a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something. So what do you think Fitbit and all these devices do? Like, of course they give you your step count and your calorie. But what is it that is most critical?
Instant feedback.
That is correct. Did you attend the workshop before? Just kidding. That's my favorite slide. So yes, it is instant feedback. Anytime you want to know what your calorie count is for that day, or the might count is for the day, you get it right at that time. That's exactly what your students want. They want to know how they're doing at any point in time. So with all these different tools that we're showing you today, that's what it is doing. It's gauging their learning. So they understand when you all saw that 90% of the class got the first answer wrong, you knew it, that there was something wrong, you need to go back and reread. The same way we knew that we wanted to go back and revisit that same topic. So it's two-way. It's, the students want instant feedback, and mobile technology can help you with that. So we've already mentioned this. It's just in case, just in time, just enough, and just for you. And so now I'm going to go through some of these tools, and we'll show you a couple. We've already shown you a few. But they can be in different buckets. Some of the tools help you with content creation. Some tools help you with content presentation. And then some help you with active learning. So we've seen Socrative in today's Meet in action. And we've also mentioned Poll Everywhere, as we all knew, or clickers. I'm going to show you Nearpod just in a little bit. But then we also have content presentation, which also again shows Nearpod, because it's basically I'm presenting the content and then I'm also assessing you along with the content with questions. So Nearpod and Doceri does the same thing. And then content creation. How many of you use Google Drive? All right, so everybody uses Google Drive. So that's all your students use Google Drive. You're a Google campus, so that's helps with all the collaborative work. And then I'll also show you Padlet if time allows, which is a collaborative wall basically. Alright, so let's go to Nearpod. So on your devices, you can either download the Nearpod app, but for the lack of time, for right now, we will just go to the website, nearpod.com. So just go to a browser and type in nearpod.com, Nearpod. And Nate here is going to log in for me as a student. ZJTKX. All right. So go to nearpod.com, and on the right it will show you an option for join session. And in the, when you tap on join session, type in this session code, which is ZJTKX. ZJTKX. It's on the book.
Yeah, I know, I'm not seeing joint sessions.
You go to Nearpod, it should be this little thing on the very top. Is that popping up for everyone?
Where?
The mobile site might be a little different.
Yes, so go in here and
Anybody having problems? You good over here?
That's what we're supposed to be seeing.
Yes. You guys all look good? You all good?
entry code. Sorry.
Oh, okay. And it's, what is that?
CJTKX. All right, yeah, so I see about 26 students, and one of you is not there. 29. All right. All right, so it says I have 30 students in my class already, and if I need more, I need to go to the pro version. So if somebody wasn't able to join in, I guess please partner with your friends.
So what's the limit?
30.
Okay.
You need to purchase the pro, not us, isn't it?
That is correct. The instructor needs to do that. It's a prize for an instructor, and so if the instructor has some grant money or something, so yes, you can.
How much is it?
I will have to double check that, but it's a yearly subscription of about $300, I think. But that would be something I would have to check. But it's on their website. So if you go to nearpod.com, you'll be able to go to the pricing. We don't have an institutional license, so but you can go for an educational pricing, would be a little less than the regular one.
But the easiest way around that is pair students up. Collaborative learning works. When you combine it with technology, you're going to engage more people and save your money.
All right, so does everybody see what we see on the screen on their devices? So now suddenly, so if you imagine a big, huge classroom, and there's people sitting in the very back, can't see the board very closely. Now the presentation is on their devices. But you can't go forward to this in the slideshow. I'm the only one who controls it. So if I go to the next slide, you will see the next slide on your screens, but you cannot go back and forth. So I have control, but you have all that is shown on the screen right on your in your hands.
And some professors and faculty don't like sharing their PowerPoints beforehand. Your professional stance may differ, but this has more utility than just presentation, and I'll show that in just a minute.
So the other thing you see here is that now I'm not tethered to the podium anymore. I can walk around, I can sit down, and we can work together. And now I can, it doesn't feel the stage on the stage approach anymore, because now it's more like coaching. We can work together on something. So that's a couple of advantages of using something like Nearpod. So as you see, what I've basically done is I had a PowerPoint slideshow, and I just on my teacher account, I just uploaded my PowerPoint into Nearpod, and then I've added some activities in between, which is like a quiz question, or it's a poll question, or something else called a draw it activity, and so I've added that as well. So all I've done is gotten my PowerPoint, which you already always have, get your PowerPoint into Nearpod, and then add interaction or interactive activities in between. Okay? So I'm showing you more of a student side of it, what students see more so from the instructor side. So here's my PowerPoint. I can go forward, and now I want to ask you a question. So let's see, how does an instructor view eCampus as a student? So some of you used eCampus probably, or most of you have. So let's see what answers I get. And on my side of the thing, I can see exactly who's answering what, and whether you got it right or wrong, and how many people got it right, what percentage of the class did not get it right, so on and so forth. And I will share the right answer with you in just a minute. So I'm giving you a couple of more minutes to put in an answer. There are 20% of the students who haven't answered yet, so we're almost getting there. All right, does anybody need more time? I still have 13.3% not answering.
So what Shweta is demonstrating is sometimes your students won't participate even if this is up there. She's not going to show you until she gets another 5%.
So I'm down to about 6.7. That's the last chance. Come on, people. All right, 3.3, yay. Oh, perfect. All right, so now that I have most of you answered the question and most of you actually got it right, I can share the results with you. So if I hit share, now you can see how many percentage got it right, what percentage got it wrong, how many didn't answer, and then also see what the correct answer is, and then under my answers you will see what you answered. So now you don't feel very left out when you see that 16% also got it wrong, or that percentage could have been 90%. So you don't feel lost anymore, because you feel like my colleagues are also on this on the same page. So I basically now I can share it with everyone, and now we can have a discussion. Why did you think? So if say the numbers in this case were the opposite, 80% of you had got it wrong, then I can go back and revisit the topic and then show you, and we can have a discussion right after that. And the best thing is it's anonymous. Nobody knows what you answered. So it's a safe place. So even if you got it wrong, it's okay. Nobody would know that. Right?
Are you going to know it?
I will, but again, it's an anonymous. You can have an alias, so you don't have to have your actual name over there. All right, so let's go back and continue with the PowerPoint. So I go back, and again, it's seamless. You can see the next slide. That's just content. So go back and keep looking at the content. And now here's a drawing exercise. Everybody gets to draw an elephant. So you can use a stylus if you have a stylus, if you want to just use a finger, whatever. So just draw it, and then I will share the best elephants that I get over here. All right, that's Nate drawing.
That's not fair. Everyone can see mine.
So the idea is that he wouldn't. So if I was the one in the class and Nate wasn't there, I would just leave it this way. And then I would have all of you make an elephant, and it doesn't have to be an elephant. It can actually be a really advanced algebraic equation that I would ask you to solve, or it could be a trigonometric question that I want you to solve. So it could be, or maybe a diagram of the heart that I want you to label. So it could be anything very advanced versus drawing an elephant, but you get the idea. So instead of Nate drawing an elephant, I could actually go there and then show you how an actual elephant looks like, which Nate, I think has done a pretty good job.
What grade would I get on this?
Are you asking me?
Well, I'm asking the.
Okay.
What kind of grade would you give me on this? 100? All right.
Oh, I see pretty cool elephants here. Nice. Okay, well, I'm going to show
That's
that to
extra
you.
credit worthy, right?
I love this one.
Oh, yes.
That's cute. All right, so let's see. Let's see a few others. Somebody tried really hard here. I couldn't make any better than that, so no worries. Well, it's fun. All right. Well, that's a different iteration.
Do one more, Shweta.
Oh yeah, I'm doing one more. That was minimalistic. I think I like that. So the idea is, again, it doesn't have to be an elephant. It can be something very advanced as per your different disciplines. But you get the idea, so now, as she was mentioning, with clickers, you were restricted to just 4 options or 5 options. But here, it just opens up all these different possibilities. You can have poll questions, quiz questions, you can have them draw. You can actually even take them to a website. So you can have a slide which then takes them to a website, and then everybody's going to be on that same website. And then they can go within the website to different pages, but then they are all on the same website. So you can even do that. All right, so that's what I get. So the idea at the end of this is that once I have my session, or once I finish my session at the end of the class, I would actually get a report as an instructor. So I will see, it will be a PDF, it will show me everybody's drawings, it will show me everybody's answers on the quiz question, and so I can go back and see which questions people were getting wrong, how everybody was doing, and then go back and change some of those things and answer those things again. Sorry about that. All right, any questions so far? So for you guys, since you were acting as students in this session, you didn't have to make an account, but if you were an instructor, you would have to make an account, which is free, and then upload your PowerPoint and start working from there. So, and it's very easy. If you go to the website, it's pretty easy to follow through and create something like this. All right, any questions so far? If not, we can go and jump into a second tool. Yes, ma'am.
So all these ideas are great and wonderful, but when we're actually like sitting there by ourselves making lesson plans, it's like hard to remember all this and creatively figure out how to do it. Do you all have like coaching sessions where we can sit down and brainstorm with you all? It's like, remember back in February, we had this session,
So we do offer a lot of different workshops all through the year in collaboration with CTE,
I'm not talking
ITS.
about a workshop.
But coaching session, so what college are you with?
Education and Human Development.
So,
Okay, well, I'm sure your people have, I know
So
Renee.
like people who
So
are
do
my
you know
people.
Renee? Do you know Renee Kuros?
Yeah, I do.
She's
an
a
instructor.
she's a distance learning director.
This goes way beyond distance learning though.
So-
Right, but they're the
let
ones
me-
who do this.
Let me
So
answer your question. The CTE serves the entire university, so regardless of what college or program you're in, we have consultants that are at my level who have a PhD, and I do meet with graduate students. We also have what we call graduate teaching consultants, and they're consultants that serve graduate students, and they're graduate students themselves.
So how do you make appointments?
You would just send an email to the CTE and it would be routed to the correct people. So there are people that would be willing to sit down with you, whether it's classroom management or technology.
Gotcha.
So the resources are there.
Okay,
And
that's,
then
I just wanted to know.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then individual colleges, as I mentioned, also have
Okay.
resources that you can meet with. It's just an idea of sending an email and telling them that you're interested in using something or brainstorming with them, and they're more than welcome to sit down and have a discussion.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so one thing before we go to Padlet, I know all these technologies look cool and some of you are really excited, but some of you may even be a little, overwhelmed, which is perfectly okay. But the idea is that you don't just use a technology because you want to use it or because it looks cool. You would want to select a technology very, keeping a lot of things in mind. Number one is what do you want your students to achieve? What are the learning objectives? So what your learning objectives are, that's the first thing that you think about. And then you'll see if there's any technology that can align with that, and that's how you choose a technology. You don't just choose a technology because it's cool, it's fun, and then you go back and start tweaking your learning objectives so that it can align with it. So it's the backward process. Think about your learning objectives and then try to find a technology that works best for you. And if what works best for you is a whiteboard and a marker, that's totally fine as well. It's just some ideas for you to consider.
Anytime you have any sort of instructional technology, you have to be comfortable using it yourself. So take the time to use it. You don't want it to fail on you when you're trying to teach students. If you're going to use something like this, give them frequently asked questions or be prepared to answer questions. So if you're going to use today's Meet and you have students that have issues, know how to troubleshoot. Teaching actively and teaching more engagingly, it takes more time than just throwing up a lecture. These approaches will take more time. They will take a lot more effort to do well. So this isn't a time saver necessarily, but it does help with student engagement. But you have to do it well, or tech difficulties can really kind of sink you.
All right, so let's look at a tool really quickly. It's called Padlet. And if you all want to go to this URL, if you have a QR scanner, you can scan the QR code. If not, you can go to this website, which is tinyurl.com/Padlet, Padlet, barbecue, BBQ.
This is from a workshop we did for faculty. We had them research types of barbecue, so that's why we're taking to a barbecue site.
So tinyurl.com/Padlet, BBQ. Can everybody see it? It works a little bit better if you have a bigger device, so maybe a mobile phone is probably not the best, but a tablet or a laptop works really well. A phone works too, it's a smaller screen. You have to pan around the canvas to be able to see the entire, to be able to see everything on it.
So does everybody see something that looks sort of like this? Some portion of it? Like Shweta said, this is probably not the best for mobile devices, so you would have them bring in their laptops or an lab computer or bring in a tablet.
Or a tablet would work. And Padlet also has an app that you can download. So the app actually works a little bit more seamlessly versus the web version if you're using a tablet or an iPad or something. So the idea with Padlet is that it's a collaborative wall. So it's a wall, it's a canvas, a big huge canvas that everybody can pin on together at the same time. And you can pin different things. You can pin text, you can get videos with just a URL, like a YouTube video. You can also get images from Google or from Flickr or someplace, like any other website. You can have Word documents, you can also have PDFs. So all these different medias are options for you to put on this wall. So you can use this as a collaborative brainstorming session in your classes where, so for example, in this case, we asked everybody to research about barbecues or types of barbecues and then pin it on the wall. So everybody went to their phones, found different things about barbecues. Well, there's Texas barbecue, there's Memphis barbecue, there's North Carolina barbecue, I believe. So they went in and some people found some recipes, some people found some restaurants that serve really good barbecue. You could have a video, so on and so forth. So how you basically add content to it is you just double click anywhere on the blank space. When you double click or double tab on a blank space, it asks you to type in a title. So I'm going to type in Shweta's entry, for example. I can write something in, and then I have all these different options. I can put an audio, I can attach a file, I can put a video, I can put an image, all these different options available. So say if I want to add a video, I can just copy and paste a URL. So I could go to a YouTube video and get a link from there. So I'm just going to go into my channel and pick up an econ video from here. So let's say this is a video I want to get from there. So I just copy the URL and paste it right here. It asks me if it looks good. I say okay, and I have a video uploaded right there. It's nothing to do with barbecue, but you get the idea.
The other way you could use this, in addition to formative assessment, is project-based learning. Say your groups, their job is to do a research project. This is a lot more dynamic and multimedia based than here is a Word document, here's a PowerPoint. So if you wanted them to research something like football or whatever, you could have academic articles, they could put PDFs in there, they could have their own articles in there, their own documentation, and then they can have supporting multimedia. And then you could grade this as the entire package, because they can provide you the link to their wall or their group's wall. Or it could be an individual assignment. So it could be an assignment instead of just a classroom.
Just a classroom activity. I've had some instructors in the Department of English use it for something called the writing brain. And what they did was he got his entire class together to write more effectively, write sentences more effectively. So they all started putting in their sentence, and by the end of the class, they had the most effective sentence. They brainstormed together, and then they framed the most effective sentence. So, and then I've had some people do a book review or an article review. So you read an article, but then you also go back and do some more research and plug that in to add to it and make it more comprehensive.
And the good thing about this is if you're worried that students are going to post inappropriate content, you can have a setting where it says you get to approve it to go on the wall before it gets up there. But again, any of the tools we use, make sure that you have preface it by saying, these are the ground rules of how we're going to use this stuff. Because if you don't do it, you're going to have that one person who thinks they're being funny, ruin the whole experience. So I would only use this with more mature students, or students that will treat this well.
All right, any questions so far? All right, so we're about just 3 minutes from 6:30. This is a very good resource if you want to look at some more EdTech tools. It's edtech.org/apps, and you can also scan the QR code if you want that. It gives you all various different tools, about 50 or 60 of them, based on activity. So if you are looking for maybe a lecture recording tool, or if you're looking for an engagement tool or a polling tool, you can go by activity and search for different kinds of apps, tools, web-based apps, so on and so forth. And it tells you what's the ease of use, like it gives you a rating of how easy or difficult it is. It also tells you whether it works on iOS devices or an Android device or both, or if it's a web-based tool, so on and so forth. Pretty comprehensive information about educational technology tools. So something to look for if you're interested in using any of these technologies.
And we're almost out of time, but I wanted to take some time to go over this. This is a nice little handout for you. Kind of helps guide you through whether you even need a tool or not. So like Shweta said, don't use EdTech just for its sake. The other thing down, she already talked about a lot of 1 to 10. I want to see A through H here. All your students have different abilities, so we can't assume that everyone's the same. So definitely, if a student has a disability, you have to make accommodations. So tech use can be kind of tricky in that regard. So this is how we would approach it. Design your course from a universal design perspective. Don't rely too much on technology. Don't rely too much on just lecture. Definitely try to design for everybody. Trying to find accessible tools when possible. There are a lot of apps out there now. consider alternative assignments and sources of content. Don't just rely on a PDF. Don't just rely on an image. Don't just rely on a document or a video. Use multiple sources of information. Give students choices and options. Okay? If they don't like using images or multimedia, they can do something else. Ensure that tech is learner-centered and easy to use. So you don't want to have them do a very, very complicated tool. And you also want to prep them so that they understand and you know the tool. One way to kind of help with this is use tech in group work. So let's say somebody doesn't have their phone with them. Remember that I told you to group up if you didn't have a phone? So the whole purpose of the tech use was for you to kind of digest the learning. It wasn't how to use a tool. So I'm assessing you on how well you're understanding the information, how well you're working with your group. I'm not assessing you on if you can actually use the app or not. You notice the difference there? So and the purpose of the learning is to get everybody to know the content. So if a student who might have a visual impairment, they can still contribute to a group discussion, and then the group discussion comes one answer, and then one person who has a phone can send in that one answer. Okay, so what you're doing is you're focusing on the learning and not the technology. Remember, students needing accessibility are diverse. There's a lot of diverse needs. So consult with disability services if you have a question, or if you're a faculty member. Okay? So we wanted to leave you with that because we want you to make sure that you're using technology in a responsible manner. You have anything else to say?
No, so I guess that's about it. Yeah, basically just make sure that if you go to the website of all these tools, it actually gives you an accessibility policy. It will tell you how accessible or not accessible the tool is, and if not, you can also talk to their tech people or their customer service and get some of that information. So before you start using a tool, make sure you've done your research and made sure that it's okay to use that. But otherwise, group work is probably one of the best workarounds for something like this.
And the last thing is don't try to use too many of these at once, and don't overuse them. Okay? Because if you try to do 5 things, the students get frustrated with technology and they don't learn. So use it sparingly. It's like seasoning in many ways. Okay? Too much salt is bad, too much pepper is bad, but the right amount is good. You can tell it's dinner time, I'm hungry, right? So, all right, so I guess we're done.
Thank you, Dr. Pauling and Kalani, for their lecture and informal presentation today. So you can. And next Monday we have a meeting for CV making. It's a required course for the certificate. So we will meet next Monday. Thank you, guys.
Yes.